JetCastNation, welcome to episode number 30. As always, I'm Pat. That's Ray. We got the Cowboys coming up, and we're going to go through the whole game here, what we think we're going to see, and how the game's going to play out. I don't really have much to go on with the last game. It is what it is. I gave my my recap and my thoughts on it. I know I waited a few days to actually give my thoughts on it. I had to kind of let it, sit for a while before I, really gave you my thoughts, but I'll have that link to that video in the description. But we're on to week 2. We got a big Cowboys team coming in. They just destroyed the Giants at home, and this is going to be a tough defense for Zach. Ray, what are the key matchups you think we're going to have to deal with?
Parsons. If you think they're not going to line him up over Dwayne Brown, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. I think it's going to be their defense and our defense. I could see it being a defensive stalemate, and the quarterback that makes the big boo-boo, as we like to say, that could end up swaying this game. I know that Dallas right now is supposedly, I believe the Jets are getting 9.5 right now points, so I think that's a little extreme. I understand the unknown with Zach Wilson. Nobody knows what he's going to be in this offense. He played okay against the Bills, nothing great. He didn't lose us the game. He had the one awful, horrendous pick, but he didn't have the whole week to prepare. When I look at this game and when I look at the last game, I throw out the Giants-Cowboys game. Daniel Jones looked awful. The Giants lost a fumble, 2 picks. They gave up 7 sacks. They were 5 of 16 on third down. If you actually look at those stats, you would think 40-0. The Dallas Cowboys must have put up an insane offense. But when you actually take a deeper dive into the numbers, the Cowboys only threw for 143 yards and they rushed for 122. You would think that Prescott probably would have thrown for 300 plus and Pollard would have gone off. And that was just not the case. It's just the Giants offense was so awful. And you got to give credit to the Dallas defense, of course. But I think that game, that score is not indicative of the kind of team that Dallas is. Are they a really good team? Yeah. Are they probably winning that division? It's going to be a toss-up between them and Philadelphia. But at the end of the day, I'm not a believer in the Giants. Never have. I thought last year was kind of like the Mets anomaly from last year where the Mets won 100-plus games and they sucked this year. I think the Giants are on that same path. I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. And I think this game's going to be way closer than 9.5 points. I'm really surprised by that by Vegas.
Yeah, that spread is a little too large for me. Week 1 always has some really weird anomalies in games. We saw it last year, and it happened this year. I mean, I hope that our game wasn't an anomaly, but I think I'm more worried about the corners, Stephon Gilmore and Diggs. It's going to come down. I think it's going to be a run-heavy game for us. We knew it was going to be that, right? Just because Zach, I don't trust him really throwing the ball. I'm wearing his jersey right now, but I still don't trust him to throw the ball. We're going to have to rely on Breece Hall, and we're going to have to rely on Cook, and they're going to have to beat Parsons. That's what it's going to come down to. And we'll have to throw
at him.
Right. We're going to have to throw it. Zach will have to throw it when we need to, but it's going to be a run-heavy game. We always knew it was going to be like that. I'm curious to see how Hackett is able to game plan with Zach as the quarterback. Because obviously the first game, it was such a, just him being thrown out there, 4 plays in, whatever game plan that they had has to be tossed out the window. And good thing for Hackett for, adjusting on the fly to what Zach can do. So I'm curious to see how he does. He's got to be better than LaFleur, right? So
you would think, you'd hope he's coming with experience, and a lot of Jeff fans are going back to, well, look at what he did with Blake Bortles with Jacksonville. It's not only what he did with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He's had success with mediocre quarterbacks. This is the difference between us and those Jacksonville teams. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. We don't need Zach to be elite. If he could come in at the 20th overall quarterback in the NFL, this is an absolute playoff team.
But we said that last year. We said that last year too, when LaFleur was not able to get anything out of him outside of the debacle of what happened in Denver. Hackett has been a really good offensive coordinator. I think he's one of those guys that is a coordinator and is, he doesn't have, whatever you need to be a head coach. He's a coordinator first, and I think he's always going to be a coordinator, and I think he's going to be a great one at that. And he's got a game plan with Zach, and that's what it comes down to.
Dallas is going to force the Jets to throw the ball deep. They're going to give the Garrett Wilsons, the Lazards, the Mecole Hardmans, those one-on-ones on the outside. And I could see it now because you saw the Bills start to do that towards the end of the game. They started loading up the box because, believe it or not, if Mekhi Becton's healthy, he's right there with the top run blocking tackle.
He played great.
Great. And Elijah Vera-Tucker was moving guys too on that right side. I think that's the recipe for success. You got to run the ball early, but you can't become so predictable. They got to use that play action, maybe some naked bootleg for Wilson out of the pocket, utilize those tight ends. I could see a similar thing that we did in Buffalo happening again this week. And unfortunately, Mecole Hardman is liking tweets on Twitter that he's not getting playing time. How about we be about the team? It's week 1. We paid you a boatload of money on a 1-year contract. They had to change game plans, and I think it's going to be a similar game plan. It's going to be tight ends. One guy we have to address is Rucker. Rucker graded out as the top run-blocking tight end in the NFL week 1. He was unbelievable out there, and I expect a similar thing out there. I think he's going to line up a lot where Parsons is and maybe help Wayne Brown in the chip game on the left side, and they're going to leave Becton out there on the right side in an island. That you can't have it all the time. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think Dallas is going to be blitzing. I think they're going to be coming heavy. I wouldn't be surprised if Hackett goes to the screen game. We've seen it work last week with Dalvin Cook and with Breece Hall getting chunk yards in the screen game. So that's one thing that you could use to take the aggressiveness away from a defense. The difference between our offense and the Giants' offense from last week, without a doubt, is wide receiver talent. They don't have anybody like Garrett Wilson. Do me a favor. Leave Garrett Wilson on an island with Diggs, with Gilmore. For me, he is better than they are. And one thing we know about Diggs is he is a gambler. He will try to bait quarterbacks into mistakes. If Zach could avoid the big mistake, I think this game does go into the second half, and I don't see any team on either side blowing each other out.
So, talking about the injury reports that came out. So,
yes.
The Cowboys have Brandon Cooks is hurt and Zach Martin's hurt, right? Yep. They've been limited, I believe, so they're questionable. And then
just had it right here.
You did. And then on the Jets side, we have I think Breece Hall, Mekhi Becton are still on the injury report as questionable. We know they're going to play, but
I have it right here.
The newest one's Zerline. Right? He pulled his groin. So that's great.
They actually brought kickers in to that's how serious it is. If I'm the Jets, I consider IRing him because our roster's so stacked. You can't afford to carry 2 kickers and then waive somebody else because they're going to get picked up at this point in the game. That's how.
He just got hurt today?
I'm not sure.
If they brought people in today, it must have been yesterday.
It was yesterday. Well, I actually have an injury report. This is as of last night. Dalvin Cook did not participate Wednesday, Thursday. Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle, did not participate at all. Tyron Smith, full participant, and then Donovan Wilson, guard, limited Zach Martin. That's a big one if that ends up being an issue. And then you have Brown, Becton, and Hall were all limited participants, but I fully expect them to play on Sunday. I don't think there's any. I think they're just Becton's probably doing some stuff with his knee. Same thing with Hall.
Right.
Brown is 4,000 years old, so they probably just gave him a day.
So I think from a defensive standpoint, it's going to be having to get into Dak's head.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have
Stop
to get
the run.
Right. We're going to have to get pressure with our 4 up front, which we have been able to. And if Zach Martin's out, then it should be easier. So from
Carl Lawson coming back.
That's right.
Out?
Mm.
He's definitely playing. They said if it wasn't a short week last week, odds are he would have been playing, but they didn't want to bring him in on a
Is
short week
Huff out?
playing
I would have
Monday.
wanted.
I don't know. McDonald didn't get a lot of snaps, which is very surprising to me because he seemed to be the dominant guy in practice. But
it's a rookie. It's his first game.
They're becoming that organization where you are going to think about it. Jermaine Johnson didn't get a ton of snaps in his first year, and now he's dominating. So the Jets are becoming one of those organizations where you are going to earn it. It's not if you're drafted high, you're starting right away. I mean, think about Tippmann. Tippmann's a backup right now, and he was the 43rd overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
So this roster's absolutely stacked. I don't know if you mentioned this on one of the shows you did by yourself, but we now have our first round pick going into next year. So that's something to consider down the line as well. All these rumors I'm seeing today, Jet fans falling in love with Kirk Cousins. Get it out of your head. The guy's got a massive dead cap hit. You're not giving up a first round pick to bring in a quarterback at the trade deadline to try to save this team. It's either going to be Zach Wilson or nothing. And we saw on the Pat McAfee show, that's something that we could bring up. On the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers, hinted at trying to, come back.
There's no way.
Right. I think it's more jokingly, especially if we make the playoffs. That means Zach's probably playing well.
Right? So imagine Zach sitting on the sideline like, hello?
Right, exactly.
There's no way. I mean, I think he did the same type of surgery. I forget the name of the type of surgery, but the same surgery that Cam Akers got but he was like 23, 24 when he got it.
Right.
And it was 5.5 month rehab. So you're telling me a 40-year-old is going to be able to do the same in 4 months and get into game shape? No.
Well, that's what Paul Riley was saying. He said, listen, the blood flow in a body is big difference between 23 and 40 and the ability to heal. So that's one thing Jet fans absolutely have to take into consideration is he's older, so his body more than likely is not going to heal as fast as...
It's crazy how we treat 40-year-olds like grandpas in the NFL.
Well.
But, I'm happy that, he seems to be in good spirits and, he clearly is going to do whatever he has to do to get back because he wants to play. He wants to be here. But, now the theme for the year is win for 8, right? And that's the rallying cry.
So what is your prediction for the Sunday? What are your thoughts on that? Honest. We're honest here.
Honest. I think we lose by... we probably lose by like a touchdown, maybe like 5 points, and it comes down to a drive, and we're not able to score. That's what I think it's going to come down to. I hope I'm wrong, but after seeing what Dallas did, their defense is stacked. I think they have just as good as a defense as us, and it's going to be a low scoring game.
9.5 is a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
The more and more I think about it, I've had a couple scores in my head. I think we lose this, I'll say 24-13. I'm not one of those Zach believers. I got to see it to believe it. I was the biggest Zach fan coming out of college, even though I didn't want them to draft him. I wasn't a big fan of him. I was more of a fan of Justin Fields at the time. Turns out, I don't think Justin Fields can be anything great either, but when you look at it, until Zach proves otherwise, I just don't trust him not to make a big mistake. I mean, last week's interception, I know Jeff fans want to say, well, he wasn't a part of the number one game plan. There were 2 Bills there that could have picked that off.
No, it was a terrible throw.
It was
a terrible throw.
And I seen that panic in his face, and that's one thing that scares the hell out of me. He's going to a hostile environment. It's going to be loaded with Cowboy fans, the biggest stadium in the NFL. It is going to be loud as all hell. And he's going to have to put up or shut up. This run game's going to have to get going. But I guarantee you, right out the bat, Dallas is going to be stacking the line. So if I'm Nathaniel Hackett, I consider a shot play almost right away. Hopefully we win the coin toss, can defer, and get the ball back like we did against Buffalo early. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get one-on-one, even if it doesn't connect, just have that threat out there because Dallas is going to be playing with safeties up by the line of scrimmage. I can almost guarantee it.
I watched Inside the NFL, and I do like how it seems like the team is, at least last week, was really, rallying around Zach. You had Wilson talking to him, Garrett Wilson. You had Lazard talking to him. You had Hackett in his ear telling him, don't get too high, don't get too low. And I just hope that he feeds off of an actual experienced coach that knows how to handle situations like this. That's all you can hope for at this
maturity.
point.
I think a lot of it's maturity. Like, it's funny that I see on ESPN, a lot of ESPN analysts are like, Josh Allen, it's time to grow up. Because we all agree, the first pick to Whitehead was awful. That can't happen.
I'm okay. So here's my thing with those picks. 2 of them, I don't think matter at all. One was a 3rd and long, one was a 2nd and forever, and they were basically de facto punts at that point.
Right. But
so it wasn't that big.
If it returns it, then it becomes a big deal.
Right. So one, we ended up on the 4-yard line. The other one came out to the 20. So de facto punts in my head. The one that was the killer was the 3rd one. And
the fumble. Michael Clemens with the stone wall.
Well, if you look, they snapped the ball. He wasn't even looking. He had his head turned.
Yeah, they had motion coming from his left side.
Right, and he looked over, and then the ball got snapped.
He picked it up. He snapped. He picked it up and went to run it. And
I don't think he never had. Yeah, he never had a full grasp on the ball. I don't think, and he didn't really get. Clemens didn't crush him. Clemens pushed the tackle into him. That was. Mark Sanchez was tweeting. Did you see the Mark Sanchez tweet?
No.
Mark Sanchez was tweeting how like, oh, Josh Allen ran into the back of his lineman and fumbled the ball. I was like, great. Yeah, expert on that. So, all right, well, we'll see you guys after the game, and hopefully we're talking about a Jets win. Remember, we got the halftime space on Twitter.
Yeah, and check out our giveaway we're doing on Twitter with Foco. You want to go win a free Sauce Gardner limited edition bobblehead?
Yes,
one of those giveaways.
I'll have the link to that Twitter giveaway in the bio, in the description, not the bio.